Okay, Molly, we can start. We
Perfect,
are live
perfect.
now.
Okay.
You can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this national webinar on the ripple effect, the impact of menstrual health on the environment by Dr. Duru Shah. My name is Molly Dua, and I'm a climate champion under the National Youth Climate Consortium, an initiative by Bring Back Green Foundation, supported by Yuva UNICEF. The fellowship under NYCC is a flagship program aimed at empowering passionate young individuals to lead grassroots climate actions across India. It fosters leadership, advocacy, and community engagement to create meaningful environment change. As part of this movement, we also have the Youth Climate Impact Community, a growing network of young people committed to supporting grassroots action and building climate aware ecosystems across the country. My project under NYCC is called Go Red. It focuses on menstrual health awareness and the environmental impact of sanitary pad waste, an intersection many people still rarely think about. I have worked in Delhi with organizations such as Pink Legal Club Ibtida and Uttejna Foundation, where I engage in menstrual health educational awareness amongst communities. These experiences have shown me how deeply menstrual taboos and waste management gaps still affect us in our daily lives, and from lack of space washing spaces to even open dustbins in educational institutions and public areas. So, before we begin today's talk, I want you all to pause and think about one question. If something we use every month harms the planet and our health, why do we still hesitate to talk about alternatives? Hold those thoughts with you as we go through today's session. It is my absolute honor to welcome our speaker, Dr. Duru Shah, Director, Gynac World. She is a renowned gynecologist, educator, and one of India's leading voices in women's health. Dr. Shah has been working for over 25 years on adolescent girls' health, menstrual education, and PCOS awareness. Through initiatives like Too Shy to Ask platform and rural partnerships in Maharashtra, she continues to make menstrual and reproductive health accessible to both urban and rural communities. She is the recipient of many national and international awards for service towards women's health. She has also been recognized as the top 20 women achievers of Indian healthcare. Her work has inspired countless young people, including me, and I feel incredibly grateful to have her with us today. We have received some excellent questions from participants in advance, and I hope many of them will be naturally discussed during our webinar. We will also have a Q&A towards the end. And with that, I warmly invite Dr. Shah to begin the session. Ma'am, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much for this kind invitation, and I'm happy to speak to the audience and speak to your young people related to menstrual issues and how we can uh, take ahead the dilemma of problems which we have related to menstrual pads, etc., and how we can avoid the contamination of the environment and how we can prevent our future generation. I think this is something which we need to definitely understand and learn from all our experiences and from whatever literature and whatever research has been done. Just give me half a minute and I'll start.
Absolutely.
Just go to slideshow. Yeah. Start from the beginning. That's it. Can you see my screen? You're going out of this one. Sure.
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
Okay. Can you see? No? We are not showing
No,
it.
no.
Just give me half a minute. Yeah, we are showing it.
Screen sharing has
The window you
restarted
selected is in there.
Okay. Once.
Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. The screen is visible, but the presentation's not there.
Presentation is not there.
No, ma'am. I can see your email.
Share करना.
Screen है, ये screen share. Can you see it now?
Molly, do you see it now?
No, ma'am. It's still the email. I think you should
Because
share the
screen sharing is on.
Yes, the screen is on. The presentation's not on yet.
Is now? Can you see it?
No, ma'am. I think you'll have to change the screen for the tab to open.
If you could turn off the screen sharing and then start sharing again,
Stop
it
share
would
कर.
work.
Sorry, come again. I've stopped sharing.
And then if you could start again, it would work.
Now,
He said start again.
started. Are you able to see it?
Can you
Just
open the
join the and see.
presentation and then share that? It's still the
Sorry.
email we could see right now.
We can see the email being open, not the presentation. We want the presentation to be shared.
And you want to listen to me?
Yeah,
It won't be more.
yeah.
First load the presentation here. Then first open the Zoom.
Zoom is open.
Okay. In the meantime, you have loaded the presentation.
Yes.
Open करके. Have you opened it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So now your Zoom link.
Yes, we see the presentation now. Could you please put it on slideshow? Perfect. Over to you, ma'am.
Please unmute yourself. I had muted you earlier, ma'am. Please unmute yourself.
Perfect.
Can you see me, hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go ahead. I'm so sorry about this delay because I'm working with a newer equipment and which I don't understand well. So I'll go straight to the topic of the ripple effect and the impact of menstrual health on the environment. I first would like to start with talking a little bit about what is menstruation, because there are so many myths associated with menstruation, wherein people do not know, or young girls do not know what's menstruation. So just a little bit, medically on medical grounds to say what it is and why it is so important for a girl to know about her periods. So we all know that puberty is reached in the Indian population around the age of 12 to 13, where a girl starts getting her periods. And the initial part of the periods is about a year or two, she may have erratic periods, but later on the periods become regular, which may be anywhere between 25 to 30 day cycle, which is considered as normal, starting from the first day of the period to the first day of the next cycle. It's a normal physiology which helps us to, which sort of shows that the girl has reached the age where she can now conceive and she can get pregnant. And that from a young girl, she's turning into a woman. And this is the normal physiology which occurs wherein a woman releases an egg, which I will discuss with you in the next slide. But it's something which is natural, which is physiological. And there are so many cultural and religious issues about it, where a mother tells a girl that you cannot go to the temple, you cannot touch this in the kitchen, it will get ruined, you cannot exercise, you cannot climb a mountain. There are so many myths associated with it. You can't go hiking. And that is something I think we have to get rid of, because it's the belief in those cultural, sort of myths, which makes a girl get sort of getting the information which is not really the correct information. And therefore, the first aspect is to let young girls know that this is part of normal physiology, just like a girl would, or a boy would pass urine a few times a day, or just pass stool sometime in the day. And that's normal. And if that is happening on a daily basis, then why the monthly menstrual period should be considered as something wrong or something unhealthy? On the contrary, it's something which is extremely healthy, and I'll explain to you why. Now, menstrual dysfunction can occur in various ways, where the girl may get painful periods, she may have erratic periods, she may have no periods at all. And therefore, we need to understand why really the periods are happening and what is causing the periods to come on. So, if you look at this little video where the ovaries start functioning at a certain age in life, and if you see, this is the uterus, which you see over here, which has got a great blood supply. These are the ovaries. And there are eggs in those ovaries, where a girl is born with those eggs in her ovaries. And on an average, one egg grows in that ovary, and it comes out of the ovary and comes into circulation. So these are the different eggs you see within the ovary, and there are multiple such eggs. It's not only one egg at a time comes out, but there are multiple eggs inside, which actually is something which is amazing. It's those different eggs which are there which help that one egg to grow. It's literally teamwork. And there is a female hormone estrogen being secreted from here, which acts on the uterus and makes the lining of the uterus get ready to accept a baby if it occurs. So these are the cells which you see which are occurring. And this entire process is controlled by the pituitary gland, which is at the base of the brain. That gland is secreting hormones which stimulate the egg to grow, and it helps the egg to come out of the ovary. So, this is how the egg starts coming out of the ovary, and then it sort of gets released, and that is what we call ovulation. Now, this ovulation, as it comes out, these are the fimbria of the fallopian tube, finger like processes which are actually picking up that egg and taking it into the fallopian tube. This is so beautifully demonstrated here, how the egg gets into the fallopian tube, and then it is it is going ahead, and it sort of meets with the sperm inside the fallopian tube. These hair-like processes which you see here, which are the cilia in the fallopian tube, help the egg to move forward, and it goes further and further. And this is how it secretes an estrogen hormone, which makes the lining of the uterus grow, so that when the embryo, that is the egg, meets with the sperm in the fallopian tube, the embryo gets formed, and that embryo then goes into the uterus, and it starts growing over there. That's when it happens that the growth of that embryo occurs. The lining in the uterus is what is supporting the growth of the embryo. And if a girl has not been sexually active, or if she's not planning to conceive, she's using a contraceptive, then that lining still grows, but the embryo, if the egg, if it doesn't meet the sperm, there's no embryo, and therefore the lining gets shed off at the end of the month. That same lining is nourishing the embryo. So, why do people call it dirty or bad? On the contrary, it's great nutrition for the embryo and helps it to grow into a pregnancy. So, just for that little background, I also want to bring to the attention that if a girl does not reach her period by the age of 15 years, the first 2 years may be erratic periods, but if the erratic periods continue in the third year and the fourth year, then definitely there's some problem in the whole hormonal system. The third thing is, if she's got very painful periods that she can't go to school or she can't go to college, she cannot continue with her work. It's possible she's got some disorder. But if there is mild pain, which goes away with one tablet, it's nothing to worry. But if there's a lot of pain, she needs to see the doctor. There's a another reason why the girl should see the doctors if she's having very scanty periods, which were normal before but now scanty. If they are painful, if they are heavy, if there's any issue with her periods, it could represent some pathology in her whole system, which needs attention. And it should not be that if some, usually the mothers tell the daughters, don't worry, everything will be okay. Once you get married, once you have a child, it'll be fine. Those days are gone. We know today science has shown us that there is some pathology, and therefore, the girl, if within 1 or 2 years of her periods coming in, she's having trouble, she needs to see the doctor. If she's got weight issues where she keeps on putting on weight, she's not able to control it, or she's got a lot of acne on her face, which also are not settling but marring her skin completely. If she's got thick facial hair on the skin, or if she's got loss of hair from her scalp, all these are, sort of what you call signals that something is wrong. If she's got pain in her lower abdomen constantly, or if she's having a vaginal discharge, which is causing a lot of difficulties, again, she needs to see the gynae. So here we are talking about the ripple effect, how menstruation is affecting environment and women's health. So I was talking about the women's health part of it, which was the gynec issues, which could also reflect many other medical problems within a woman. Because if she doesn't get a period, if her periods are distracted, dysfunctional, just like I told you before, it is something she needs to be concerned about. Now, coming to what happens to the environment. We know, of course, that menstruation is normal. This is what I said to you. Of course, when a woman gets pregnant, she doesn't get a period. The reason is the lining inside is still nourishing that embryo to become into a 9-month fetus before the child comes out of the mother's womb. So, therefore, she has no periods. And what we must remember is that during the periods, women are using some protection so that they do not leak outside, don't get embarrassed with, sort of blood, on their clothes. And therefore, they need to use something. And maybe more than 150 years ago, or maybe in the jungles, people use, wood pulp, they use leaves, they use all kinds of contraptions to prevent that flow. But it's about 100 years since sanitary napkins are available to us. And they have been used by millions and millions and millions of women all over the world. And what we must understand is how these pads are causing harm to the environment. There are various types of products available. As I told you, many young girls still in the villages are using cloth. But what happens in the villages, we have seen it happening. I'm talking about my experience when I went to the villages about 20 years ago. And what we found is that the girls were using cloth and they were embarrassed to talk about menstruation. So even their mothers never told them that what is a period. They had no idea what's going on. And therefore, when they bled, they felt so ashamed of themselves. They thought something's wrong with them. They were finally, maybe their sister or their friends explained to them what to do. They would use cloth, some cloth from home, and then when it gets soiled, they washed it and put it to dry, but they didn't put it to dry in the sun. They put it under the bed or under somewhere so nobody sees it. And that was a cause of infections which occurred externally on the skin. In the forest, etc., people use leaves, people use all kinds of products available in nature. Then came the traditional pads which we use today, and those are the ones which are causing environmental hazards. We are also looking forward to having biodegradable pads because those are the ones which get degraded in the environment quicker than the traditional pads which are used. And recently, the menstrual cups have come in. These are the silicone cups which a woman introduces into her vagina, fits onto the mouth of the uterus. The blood goes into that. She empties out the silicone cup, reuses it, which she can use for the next few years, 4 to 5 years. But young girls who have not been sexually active, where their hymen is still intact, it's difficult for them to use these menstrual cups. But definitely the menstrual cups are reducing the carbon footprint by more than 90%. Now let's see how this pads are causing a menstrual waste burden. We have about 10,000 to 14,000 products used per woman in her lifetime. Every month she menstruates right from the age of 12 or 13, and then she keeps menstruating till she reaches menopause, which is around 49, 50. So that many menstrual cycles she would have, and in each menstrual cycle, she would use on an average 3 to 4 napkins a day, depending on amount of blood flow. So approximately she would use about 5 days. Maybe she would use anywhere from 12 to 15 pads, and that is normal. But if the patient is bleeding heavier, she would use much more. On an average, about 12 to 15 billion pads are used once a year worldwide. And in India, because we have a huge population, about almost 1.2 billion pads are used every month. Now, thing you must remember that every one of these menstrual pads contain 90% plastic, and it takes 500 to 800 years to decompose. I mean, for years and years and years, these pads are existing in the environment. Because the manufacturing of these pads involves a plastic, it involves some super absorbent material inside in the form of microgel, small granules, and a lot of cotton. Now, we know that when cotton production is done, there are a lot of pesticides being used for a good crop. And a whole lot of water is used and a whole lot of energy is used for production. They also use dioxins for the bleaching processes, and they use phthalates and PFAS in pads because that helps to give it a little fragrance and to avoid any kind of a bacterial sort of infection, and it keeps them relatively dry. So this amount of chemicals which are being used in the production process, where a whole lot of water is used, whole lot of energy is used in the factories, plus a whole lot of chemicals are used, and 90% plastic is used, it has an impact on the future generations. What happens is that these chemicals act as toxins, and they accumulate in the mother. The mother is exposed to these chemicals which are called endocrine disruptors, wherein they disrupt the whole endocrine system. The whole process of ovulation which you saw is just one thing which is occurring because of different hormones being involved. There are hundreds and hundreds such physiological processes which are occurring in our bodies with various organs like the thyroid, the pancreas, the pituitary gland, the ovaries, the testes. Every organ is producing an hormone which is interacting with another hormone, and these get this whole cycle. The regulation is master controlled by the brain, and if that gets affected, it causes disease, it causes disorder, it causes problems. So these endocrine disruptors, as we call them, these chemicals, they disrupt the endocrine system. They are the ones which are accumulating in the mother's body in the form of toxins, causing harm to her too, and also affecting the baby, which is being grown for 9 months within that uterus. And it causes intergenerational risk to the baby. And this is something which is going to affect the child as the child grows into an adult. Now, besides the production process, there is also a problem with disposal of these pads. Now, you may have seen the burning pads where people, the people who come home and collect all the garbage, the municipal corporation, everyone who's collecting, they are either putting it into landfills wherein it gets collected over years and years and years, hundreds of years, or this is burnt. And these burning pads lead to toxic fumes, which is a big health hazard for all the waste workers who work in that region. Besides that, there are some who dump the pads into the toilets and they block the complete sewage system. If the sewage system opens into the sea, the contamination from those is going into the sea, and it's causing a huge disruption to the ecosystem in the marine animals who are living there. And therefore, it's something we all need to think about. Just like there's been a huge, what you say, noise about climate change. Similarly, there's a lot of noise now on environment, how it affects us. And one thing we have to remember that today, globally, It's only 12% of the waste which is scientifically disposed, whilst 80 to 88% of it is causing environmental issues. And these pads, again, I'm trying to reiterate, take almost 500 to 800 years to decompose. These pads contain 90% plastic, and this pads breaks into microplastics, which contaminate the soil, the rivers, the oceans. From the water, it enters into food chains, enters into living creatures or the marine creatures in the sea. And these microplastics enter the human body through food, water, or air. Causes inflammation, it causes oxidative stress and hormone disruption. These microplastics are also found in the placenta of the pregnant women and in the fetal tissues when the fetus is born. So when there are miscarriages, etc., and if one is looking for these chemicals, you will find these microplastics both in the placenta, which is supplying blood to the baby, and also into the baby which is being born. There are also other chemical contaminants like bleaching powder, like dioxins is a chemical which comes from the bleaching the pads. And they use a lot of cotton, which of course, as I told you, cotton is a part of the pad. And when cotton is grown, it is more susceptible to get infested. And therefore, a lot of pesticides are used in that cotton. So that pad, when it is being burnt or when it is sitting in the landfills, there's so much of pesticide chemical within that cotton. And that is another way the groundwater gets contaminated, leading to affecting the other crops. And those are the crops we eat. So in short, we are receiving all these chemicals even through the soil, even through the water we drink, besides the air which we breathe. The phthalates and the fragrances which are added to pads are well-known endocrine disrupting chemicals. And when the pads are burnt, they're released into the air, and that is known to definitely cause menstrual irregularities, endometriosis. It causes immune suppression, so you fall sick more often, and it can also lead to cancers. The environmental effects which we see, we have all heard about the carbon footprint in the world, which is occurring because of contamination, because of the fumes, because of chemicals, whatever you may say, which is occurring, and those are causing the increased carbon footprint, which is releasing these EDCs, what we call the endocrine disruptors, which impact the generations through health risk. Now, we also know that they cause this air pollution which is occurring is also releasing carcinogens and particulate matter, which is coming into the circulation. It increases the respiratory and cardiovascular diseases and also harms children with lung and brain development. So it causes lung problems, heart problems, and it can also cause cancer. But the commonest thing we see is basically the respiratory conditions which occur in children whenever there's a lot of environmental issues. Now, when we look at the long-term low disposed exposure, we get exposed when we go out into the garden to play, or when you walk on the road. You go to the rural areas where children have to walk for miles together to reach school. Those are the areas. Or we are traveling out on the road in the city, sitting on a bike. How much of exposure there is to the contamination in the air. And this long-term low-dose exposure to contaminants causes a lot of reproductive health issues in women and in girls. It can cause thyroid problems, nutritional deficiencies, cancers, and metabolic risk. So hormonal imbalance risk which occurs, which cause of these EDCs, can also lead to infertility, can cause miscarriages because it affects the babies. And therefore, a time has come when we all need to consider all the effects which are occurring on women and girls because of lot of contamination, both of water, air, which is being created, not only by sanitary napkins. I'm not saying they're the only source, but that is a source which we can do something about. So coming to how does it affect in the future generation? This bioaccumulation of toxins which occurs, where it affects the fetus because of exposure within the uterus of the mother, causes risk in these babies where there are developmental issues. The babies may not mentally develop the way they should. It causes changes in them so that when they grow, they can develop diabetes, they can develop high blood pressure, they can develop cholesterol issues, and also cognitive issues in children. So we see a lot of nowadays, we see a lot of children having all kinds of mental health issues, and therefore, lot of it is being now sort of being diagnosed, and that is something we really need to think seriously about as to what we are doing to our children. So, what are our options? What are the sustainable options we have? See, menstrual cups, if you use, they're made of silicone. But that one silicone cup can easily last for almost 5 years in a patient, and she doesn't need to, discard it every time. She can wash it and keep it for the next cycle, and she can keep using it over a period of 5 years or so. So there's a lot of pads which are not being used by that younger lady or girl. Then there are reusable pads you can use for 2 to 5 years, which are usually made out of cloth or material which you can wash and wear. Then there are biodegradable pads, which are created from natural foods available in the forest or in the farms. Like it can be created from wood pulp, it can be created from banana, from bamboo, and these are the different areas, products which are used now to make organic pads and tampons. There are fewer chemicals added. They use instead tulsi to give it its, anti-inflammatory effect or anti-infective effect, and they use haldi also for the same. So in short, there's a lot of work being happening on these organic pads. And as a matter of fact, I know the government is marketing it in rural areas at almost 1 rupee a pad, which are being sold to the rural population. And that is something I think is very highly commendable. Now, if you look at the organic sanitary napkins, the biodegradable material used may be organic cotton, it may be plant-based materials like bamboo, it could be silicone menstrual cup or the banana fiber. So here you look at the decomposition time of everything, but it's all within a year or so, or most of it is done within a year. Especially the banana one and the bamboo one, I think, are the most commonly being used. And they are also supposed to be, sort of chemical free, biodegradable. So within a year or so, they would get degraded instead of the 500 years which it takes to degrade the plastic which is in the original sanitary napkin. Now, there are many other innovations in the field for disposal. We understood that yes, we should give better pads for people to use so that they would be, when they dispose it, it would get rid of pads which are causing trouble in terms of, sort of getting uh, disposed. So now there have been innovations in the field for disposal. First is, of course, the chemical toilets. Now, if you see, there are three types of chemical toilets, wherein a chemical toilet is used in a space where there's no running water, where there's no connection to a water connection, so that you can flush the material, through the sanitation. But it is toilets which are temporarily built. Like suppose there is a party, there's a wedding in a garden, they put up these toilets. Or it may be what you see in trains, what you see in planes, where there are toilets available which work on chemicals. And there are other toilets which are available which can be used, but they are a little bit more expensive. And these are things which can be used. Like a chemical toilet is usually used in a temporary setup. Like if there's a wedding or some kind of a party on a lawn and you need a temporary setup, it could be used. Then you have the medium to long term setups are the bio toilets, wherein the material is, all the excreta is digested by bacteria through chemicals within that bio toilet. The odor is controlled and there's a low environmental impact. There's hardly any use of water, and there is, it lasts for a longer time. The difference between a chemical toilet and a bio toilet is in the chemical toilet, it's good, there are chemicals within, wherein there's an environmental impact is higher than in a bio toilet, and the water use again is minimal. But in an eco sand toilet, what happens is that the toilet helps to divert the urine in one direction and puts the fecal matter in another direction. In that, the fecal matter collects in one container, and then gradually the container, as it gets full, it gets sort of the decomposition is occurring within that container with bacteria, and therefore in that there is a long-term arrangement. The container is then taken away and got rid of, the content is got rid of, and then the container can be used again. It could be a problem for the people who are managing it, but since these containers are well covered and there's no odor, it's easier for them to use it. The second startup which has come in is the pad care disposal system, wherein they install specifically designed bins in washrooms, and this is suggested that there are washrooms in companies and corporates and schools and in colleges where there are lots and lots of people coming there, lots of girls, where there are no bins for them to throw things. And sometimes they just wrap it in paper and throw it in the waste paper basket. Sometimes there's no paper, no toilet paper inside, and therefore it becomes very hazardous to keep all those open sanitary napkins in the bins. So what is done is there's a container which Padcare supplies, and there is they store the pads can be on you can go on putting it in, and it doesn't cause any smell or bacterial growth. There's no odor, and there it sort of collects, and then the whole container is, once it's full, there are trained personnel who collect the bins and transport the waste to a central processing facility where recycling goes on for the pads and processing. And whatever is processed, that recycled material which comes out of it is again reused. And it is used for various things which are where you can use it to create paper, you can create anything which is something which can be easily disposed of. So one thing with that is that with the use of such bins, it definitely offers a safe and private disposal of pads. It brings back the dignity of people who are working on the workers who work on waste collection. It avoids manual handling, and it prevents waste pickers from picking up sanitary napkins which they find sometimes in the waste in different areas. And then it also doesn't allow landfill, there's incineration of the complete material, recycling, the plastic waste is reduced, carbon footprint is reduced, and it promotes economy by use of the reused material. So I think there's a lot of benefit into having such systems which will help to dispose of in a better way rather than having it the way we have it today. The third innovation for disposal is, of course, biotechnology tools. There's a whole lot of changes which are occurring in the field of medicine. Lot of innovations with biotechnology. But there are a whole lot of things. But one thing I must wanted to bring up to you is that you can obtain stem cells from the menstrual blood. And today, stem cells have become a great opportunity where collection of stem cells from menstrual blood is being collected. And those stem cells are known to help in various disease disorders, medical disorders, wherein things can be used, stem cells are used for treatment. Of course, currently stem cells are used for very limited conditions, but the kind of research which is going on, I'm sure within a few years, stem cells will be used for a whole lot of conditions, including tumors, including the heart, including a lot of other medical problems. So, what are our action points? Our action point should be that we should be able to recycle the sanitary pads on an annual basis. Once we do that, it will help to divert a significant amount of plastic and toxic waste from both landfills and from incineration. We should be able to convert the waste into reusable materials like the cellulose pulps and the plastic granules which are existing in those pads can be reused by cutting down rather than being sort of burned or dumped. It can be used into different ways, and this is something we can do to prevent environmental pollution and potential emissions. Whilst recycling pads from there are hundreds and thousands of menstruating women working in as career women in different public institutions, where we will be able to once teach them what to be done, what is to be used, and see that there's a good disposal system which we need to have. But currently, only 2% is a problem, I mean, being tackled in India, and we have a long, long way to go. And therefore, what needs to be done? What needs to be done is behavior changes in women. We have to have stronger education and advocacy, connecting the menstrual hygiene and its impact on environment and health. And that is why I'm speaking to all of you young people today, because I knew you guys are the champions for doing this, and you will be the right people to take it forward. We should encourage the use of organic pads and menstrual cups. We should emphasize on proper disposal. And this is something, these different choices will help us to create positive ripple effects. At the policy level, it's important for us to talk to the government, bring in government schemes, use CSR to fund these projects if possible, use education to create behavioral change. We used education on reproductive sexual health. We did that for almost 20 years before we could get young girls talk openly about periods. I remember when we started way back in 2001, girls, even in medical schools, were embarrassed to talk about their periods. Villages, you forget about it because they could hardly want to talk about it. But today, the young girls we see in villages are openly talking about their periods and not embarrassed about it. So it's something which will require years and years of behavioral change, which we as educators can do. So, as healthcare providers, it is for us to create this awareness, and that's the reason I'm talking to you all today. We must promote sustainable products, educate our adolescents and women, and advocate with the government, do a lot of advocacy with the government for policy support or policy changes. So we must remember that menstrual sustainability is an environmental and a health need. It is collective small actions like this by all of us will create a large ripple effect and bring in more safety and better health for women in this country. So, in summarizing my talk, what I would like to say that about 12 to 15 billion pads are discarded annually worldwide. The menstrual waste contains up to 90% plastic, which persists for 500 to 800 years. The production of pads and tampons releases pesticides, chemicals, and carbon emissions. And this is something that we must remember, that we want to avoid carbon emission. Disposal leads to microplastics which are entering the soil and oceans, and the chemical exposure to the various chemicals causes hormonal and reproductive effects in women. And therefore, sanitary pad production needs to change to reduce environment and health burden. Incineration reduces toxic fumes, which is exposed to the air. So there's air, sort of environment which has been affected. Landfill accumulation affects the water and the soil. Blockage from flushing products goes into the sea and causes problems there. And plastic fragments harms marine life. And the same fish, when you eat, you're also consuming some of the fragments. The endocrine disruptors interfere with the estrogen pathways, and therefore, menstruation sometimes becomes a problem, pregnancy becomes a problem, miscarriages keep happening, and babies may be born with defects or with diseases which can occur over a period of time. So this is something that bioaccumulation increases the long-term disease risk, and cleaner menstrual products are required to have healthier women and a healthier future generation. So menstrual cups today is one good innovation which can be used, which can reduce the waste. Cloth pads can be used, which are biodegradable and washable. Organic pads with fewer chemicals, with fewer, use less of plastic, hardly any plastic, and educate adolescents and healthcare providers to play a key role in advocacy and for behavioral change. And if we have the policy decisions made with the government, it will really help to encourage all. So we must remember that menstruation is natural, but pollution is not. And this is something we all need to do something about. It's each one's responsibility to make it happen. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an enriching and eye-opening session. We're so grateful for the time and the thought you've put into the conversation. We will now open the floor for a short Q&A segment, and uh, we also have few questions from our participants. The first question is, how can the environmental implication be mitigated, and are there any regulations currently in force?
Are there any?
Regulations that are currently in force.
I'm not sure about any regulations in force, but yes, everyone knows that we need to have a lesser carbon footprint in the country. I mean, there's a lot of regulation in terms of, sort of having petrol, not to have too much of uh, gas coming from the cars, from the factories. There are a whole lot of regulations for everyone. But even with menstrual pads, I think there are ISO certified brands which are available, which talk about the absorbability of blood in it, the content in it, etc. But I'm not sure about any government regulation. I'm really not sure about it.
All right, that is something
But
all participants should look more into and
yes,
think about.
yes, but we would like to have a regulation if it does not exist. But I know that the government is providing biodegradable pads in villages at about 1 rupee a pad, which is quite affordable. And that is something which I know is happening, but I'm not sure about the regulation.
All right, because that was the next question. How can youth in rural India promote eco friendly menstrual products and support waste management in their community?
See, that's the biggest challenge today because they have sanitation issues, they have water issues. And what they do now, I know, is that the used pads are just put into landfills, and that is what they are doing, or they are burning it. As of today, that's what I know they do. But the question is that how do we make them, get into a situation where they will not need to do that. And that is where I'm coming in. I think it's important for us maybe to promote to the government. As a matter of fact, there was a concept many years ago which we wanted to put up to the government. Somehow it never got done. I think the doctors got busy just treating women and forgot about that. But there was a very nice thought process wherein you create we did a lot of education on adolescent reproductive and sexual health. And during that period, I met a lady from one of the NGOs abroad, and she suggested to me that this is what we should do in India. And she says, to create awareness, you create a sort of a tent wherein you have multiple toilets available and have the bins available there for them to throw their pads. And then you have toilets which are chemical toilets because there's not running water, no sanitation, no plumbing over there. So you have chemical toilets, and you keep a little lobby outside. So when the girls come there, they get their pads there, and they also get educated on their reproductive and sexual health. And you build a sort of a central thing in a village where all the girls can come during their periods and be available there for education, for awareness, and for all their sexual issues. So I think it's a great idea, and probably we should think about pitching it to the government. Maybe young people can do that.
Absolutely, because I believe everything menstrual health, environment, policy, and even behavioral change everything goes hand in hand. Now, I'll be taking a
Absolutely.
few questions from the chat box. Uh,
Yes.
People in the chat box are definitely saying that awareness is really important about the menstrual sustainable alternatives that we have. And there's one question. As a biotechnology student, I'm curious to know if there is any research being done on circular economy models where this waste can be become wealth.
Waste can become wealth.
Yes. And when we
Okay.
talk about waste, it is the menstrual sanitary pad waste.
So actually, they have been using the waste through this uh, in biotechnology. Actually, menstrual blood is being used for stem cells. Okay. Now, stem cells are available in the body from various parts of the body, we also collect cord blood stem cells. Like when a woman delivers and we cut the cord from the placenta, the blood we collect, and there's a whole system wherein that blood can be collected, and the patient stores that blood in a central repository, which is, these are all private practitioners, and that menstrual blood, I mean the cord blood, from that cord blood they extract stem cells and they preserve it for the same patient, and they keep it for her for years to come, so that in future when stem cells can be used for treating leukemia, say cancers, diabetes, Parkinson's, etc., etc., those stem cells can be useful to that family. And in the UK, actually, they have a public repository where every woman gives voluntarily the cord blood. And whenever she needs it, she would be able to get it from the repository for her family. But in India, currently, it is not a government sponsored scheme, but it is more in the private sector, wherein people can use their own cord blood and use it for their families. And some agencies are also marketing it to people who are happy to just donate it and not pay any money for it. Otherwise, they have to pay money to store. But they are promised that if you give, just like we give blood today, if I donate blood today, I'm promised that uh, that I will get the blood whenever I need it later.
This is one area that we should definitely explore, and it is
Yeah,
great
that
to
is
see
something
how
we
we
should
can,
explore.
yes, how we can learn from global level opportunities that are ongoing.
Yeah.
Ma'am, there's another question. Could you please guide us more on the myths that you said are considered myths with the medical lens of understanding menstruation, whereas Ayurvedic lens advocates those as menstrual practices? So I think they're trying to understand that the myths that we have, how are they different from the Ayurvedic lens?
See, the myths, Ayurvedic lens, I don't know what it says, but definitely, if you look at it scientifically, since I'm an allopath, I can talk about science, but I can talk about, just give me half a minute, just call me, this battery is running low.
Sure.
Connect this. So, in short, what we find is that the myths which I told you were the first myth I told you about the menstrual blood. It's not really something which is dirty or unhealthy. You can't touch the person. If the person goes to the kitchen and everything gets spoiled, the pickles get spoiled, stuff like that, you can't go to.
We'll take a short moment. Good to have you back, ma'am.
Sorry, I got disconnected.
Yes, so we were discussing the myths that are circulated even till now.
Yeah, so that one of the myths, of course, is that it's something as get rid of this, that it is a menstrual blood which is bad, which I feel personally, I have never come across against anybody's religion. But the thing is that I like to explain scientifically that there's nothing wrong with it. I'll give you a simple example. Men produce semen. Don't they go to the temple? Don't they go to pray? I mean, there's nothing wrong in praying because it's a natural excretion from the body. So I think this, this thing about this is a myth that it is unhealthy. According to me, the menstrual, the endometrium, which is being shed during menstruation, is something which is highly nutritious and it is something which is healthy. And I don't think we should consider it as unhealthy. That's number one. The second myth is, of course, that when you have your period, you shouldn't be going exercising or something. On the contrary, the exercise helps you. If they've got any kind of period pains or anything, if it's mild pain, on the contrary, if you exercise, you're able to get rid of even that mild pain. But the other myth which is contrary to this is where girls are told, don't worry, nothing is wrong. Like, say, for example, I see a lot of young girls with polycystic ovaries, what we call PCOS. And those girls have been told by their mothers or by whoever, or maybe the local doctor, that don't worry, your periods are irregular, this will all go. Once you get married, once you have children, everything will become okay. I think that's totally wrong, number one. The second thing is if they have acne, they have facial hair, there's obviously a hormonal problem there. They can't be sitting on it. And it just gets from bad to worse. So when acne occur in the first few years after puberty, it's understood. But if it's occurring even after you are, beyond your teens and it's coming on your face and it's coming, causing facial hair, but girls who are shaving hair every single day, it causes a lot of anxiety, it causes a lot of emotional stress, and that itself can give rise to health problems. So I think these kind of myths where menstruation is considered as it's okay if there's a problem, it happens to every girl. Another thing is the painful periods. I mean, painful periods may occur in some young girls, but they usually don't last for a long time. The pain will be for a few hours. Maybe you take one tablet and you're done and you can go back to work. But the question is of girls who cannot move, who are vomiting, who are fainting with the pain. Those are the girls who will find some disorder inside. So they must see the doctor and get it corrected. Why should you suffer pain? And the other myth is that don't take tablets. The mother will tell, don't take tablets, it's not good for you. Just lie down, take a hot water bag and sleep. And they sleep for 3 days together. So if there's a problem, please see the doctor, get yourself corrected. That's all I have to say.
Rightly said, ma'am. And coming from a doctor, it'll help people attending the webinar. And our last question is how to create a circular economy which gives individual an incentive to adopt sustainable measures. How can we help people to take up such habits and bring a behavioral change?
See, it's very easy for us to, tell people to change, but each one has their problems.
Right.
Now, how often are we have access to biodegradable products? Number one. How many of us know which are the biodegradable products? So we have to create that awareness. The awareness has to be part of the government agenda. It has to be. And therefore, the awareness is not so much for people to start using. Second thing, we have to create that awareness that it causes long term problems. It may not affect you today, but it's something which is going to affect your future generation. It may affect your own health as you grow older. And that is something we need to definitely bring out in our awareness programs. And I think it's extremely important to do that. I've explained all the issues which you could get with a lot of contamination of the air, of the soil, of the land, of everything. I'm just imagining 500 years if that sanitary pad is sitting there. Some archaeologist will one day dig and find so many pads everywhere. It's really amazing. So we have to do it, and I think the awareness has to come from all fronts. I think you all are champions. I would recommend you all do it. We run a PCOS Society of India. We'll be very happy to collaborate with you all and do a lot of stuff together, which is meant for young people. We have a great team of doctors who are very happy to help, and we can do it in different languages. We can do a lot. So I think we have like-minded people who are happy to talk to what do you say, people at large. But policy decision is extremely important. when we talked about adolescent reproductive sexual health, when girls were not being taught in schools anything about menstruation. And we as doctors were called to the school to speak to the girls and boys. That's the time I realized that we need to have this education. So we started work on it, and within 6 years, I took it to the government and I said, see, this is the status of the country. We need to create this awareness. And in 2007, they brought it into the school curriculum. It became a part of the school curriculum. And then the teachers anyway were feeling shy to speak to the children, and they asked us only to come and talk. Or they told them, this chapter you all can read at home, tell somebody to teach you this chapter, etc. So we have actually created an app called the Too Shy to Ask app, which is actually an app which is reaching out to young people, giving them all the information they need. And I think I'm going to load this also on the app and hope that many people take it up.
Absolutely, ma'am. It is so good to see the progress we've had so far and many more to come. And thank you to everyone who has stayed with us till the end. Your presence means a lot. We will be dropping links to join our community, explore resources, follow ma'am's work in the chat box and the comment section to stay connected. Once again, thank you for being part of this change. Let's continue to stay vocal, stay aware, and support meaningful initiatives. Please follow our work and join us wherever you feel inspired to contribute. Thank you, ma'am, for joining in.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much, Molly. It's been a pleasure.